So it looks like there is no question on the group work. Or we wait a little, maybe others will join shortly. Then we will know. If you have questions, kindly ask them so that I can respond to it. Then we will have a fair assessment and grading. Right. We can quickly move on now to our discussion for the day. And I want group 1, students who are in group 1, to start the discussion. And on my file for City Campus Group 1, I'll quickly go there. These are the students I have for field 304, Social and Political Philosophy. Going to the group site, one of you would engage us. So for group 1, I have Rosina Ijapon, Daniela Amwaku, Obed, come in, Obed Osea Sante, Anita Selo, Dega, Ruth, Bilkrai Ohenewa. All of you are on my group 1 list. So one of you should take up the discussion and explain what you engaged quickly. I'll give just a few minutes. If I don't get a response, I score you. Then we'll move to the next group.
Hello, Doc.
Go ahead, madam.
Please, this is Rosina for Group 1.
Let's go ahead, Auntie. Go
Please,
ahead.
the paper that we read.
Are you presenting your content for the group? When I say presenting, we will fine tune it. So it might not be a perfect submission, but let us know what you have as a group. Did you do any group work, please?
Yes, please.
Go ahead then. I hope you are speaking for the group or for
Yes,
yourself.
I'm speaking for the group, please.
Go ahead. Can you project something? You have something you can project?
No, please.
It's no problem. Don't worry, it won't affect you at all. Go ahead. I'm listening. I want to hear you. Then I'll be asking your group members. Here I mentioned all the names of the members in the group. When you do your presentation as best you can, then I'll ask your colleagues to augment it. I will choose who says what. Go ahead.
Okay, so Martin Luther King was replying a letter from Birmingham jail where he was talking about how people of color should be respected. They should be given human dignity instead of the racial discrimination that was being leveled up against them. So he said he wrote that there are 4 steps in a violent campaign. The first one is the collection of facts to determine injustice that exists in the community. And for them, the injustice that they realized that existed in Birmingham community was that a black child or a person of color could not go to say an amusement park to go and have fun, or even it was even very difficult to get a cup of coffee when you are traveling and you need to rent or go to a motel to rest and continue your journey the next day. It was very difficult to do. It was like the people of color was discriminated against all over the place. And the second one that he noticed was negotiation. So they negotiated with his movement, the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, negotiated with the City Fathers of Birmingham, and then for them to understand respect for human dignity and that Black people of color too mattered. But the negotiation was just, it was futile. It didn't yield any results. And they were told to wait, be patient, time, and all of that. So after the Department of Police, their elections and all of that, they were still patient throughout all the sections so that it wouldn't clash with any of them. But later on, still they didn't get any reply. They were not being respected how they wanted to be. So Martin Luther King led a parade without a permit, and that landed him in jail. And it was like civil disobedience. If if lukewarm, he stated that lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than an outright rejection. That the people hadn't really rejected their proposal for Black people of color to be respected, but they were just like they should wait, they should wait, they should wait. It was like um Justice too long delayed is justice denied, in that they have waited for 340 years for freedom, and even to get a cup of coffee was a hard thing to do. So they needed to take action. So they went on a non-violent parade, which later resulted in violence, where the police department poured out dogs on them to chew them and assault them, and later he was in jail. Uh, he admonishes that injustice should be treated like a boil. It should be open. If you cover it up, it will never heal. You should open it up to the air, to the moist around, so that it can really heal. And that if it's open up, actions of bad people and the silence of good people will come to light, and everybody is going to see, and then awareness will be brought to the fact that all lives matter, and that people of color to have some dignity. So please, yes.
You've done excellently well. I'm very, very impressed, Rosina.
Thank
A.
you.
And you are not reading. It doesn't come across as you are reading. So
No,
that is very well done.
you're welcome.
Very good. Well done. At
Thank you.
least captures all the aspects of the paper as much as relevant to our discussion. It touches on negotiation. It touches on, the practical issues that happened. The intentions were good, but it went off. So when we start doing an assessment of the paper, we are able to tell that sometimes the intention for which you are disobeying the law may be good, but if the action doesn't go right, it might foil your attempt. She touches on laws that are not just and stuff like that. Well done. That's a good representation for your group.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Very good. Now let's take another group. The reason is so that I don't say too much to preempt what they also had to say. But when we finish all, there is a main focus for why it is the students that are doing the class, as in they are presenting the content. It's not a typical paper. It's not too technical. It's more narrative. So we'll listen to it together and then we'll collectively assess, and I'll only be a driver in the seat guiding us this way and that way. I think Rosina sets it up very well. Let's take group 2, still on the same team. So on my file for group 2, I see Joyce Akins, Benedicta Ankama Ishen, Christabel Bafwa, Euphoria Pia, Julius Kwabneusu, Rachel Kwache Sasu, Nana Kwame Sechi Yabua. 6 members. I want to know who is presenting what you did. You see that I didn't give any specific in it. I just wanted you to engage the content and have something that as a group, when you discussed it, you saw, so that you come and tell us. Another half of the class is doing the other paper. They will also tell us, and then we'll do a critical assessment together. If you did critical assessment by yourself, all the better. You even make our work easier. Okay, so let's hear group 2 rep. Keep your hand up if you are engaging and presenting for group 2. Thank you, Benedict Ankama. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, madam. Go ahead, please.
So group 2, we are also presenting on a critical summary of Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail. And our focus was, we tried to our focus was who Martin King Luther is and why the letter was written. And we touched on some basic ethical and moral concepts, and also the impact of the letter to society. So in the introduction, we talked about Martin King Luther, who is an American Baptist minister and a civil rights leader, noted for his profound influence on racial relations in the United States. He also led the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was founded together with Ralph Abernathy and 60 ministers and civil rights activists in January 1957. So King organized a demonstration in Birmingham, Alabama's downtown, in the spring of 1963, which the good cause unfortunately led to his arrest and imprisonment with some of his supporters. So it was in the Birmingham jail which Dr. King wrote a letter to express his disappointment in the criticisms leveled against his nonviolent direct actions by the 8 clergymen. So in the body, we touched on why the letter was written. And here we talked about the letter was written in response to the criticisms from the Black and white ministers. And shockingly, these ministers were also like his fellows. They were all preaching the same gospel. And the ministers were disappointed and they showed disapproval in the movement of Martin King Luther, and they termed it as unwise and untimely as a way of dealing with racial matters. So Martin wrote the letter to express his disappointment in the white administration. So at a time where racism was at its peak and needed the support and intervention of some important institutions to address the injustice, especially in Birmingham, they feigned ignorance and turned a blind eye to the issue at hand. So King indicated his disappointment in the white administration, who have made the Black community feel left out and giving them no alternative but to resort to direct action, following the unsuccessfulness of collection of facts to determine whether justice exists, negotiation, and self-purification. And these are the 4 steps to which someone has to undergo in dealing with a nonviolence campaign or undergoing a nonviolent campaign. He also expressed disappointment in his fellow Black fellows who have found selfish solace in the segregation, hence fail to feel or see the pain of their brothers. He also expressed disappointment in the church, the Christendom, for failing to stand by its true moral doctrine and principles, which sees all men as equal beings in the sight of God, most especially the white priests who have turned a blind eye and oppose the Black movement, with reasons being that the situation is rather a political and social issue which does not concern religion or the gospel they preach. So Martin also expressed disappointment in the clergymen failing to see the purpose of their nonviolence direct movement. He explained in his letter, and I quote, "It is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation." So the letter was to make them basically understand and support the Black appeal in ending Black segregation, or in other words, racism. So lastly, Martin also tried to explain some concepts.
I'm sorry, use the surname when you're referencing the author. Okay, it's more polished. Yeah, go ahead.
So Dr. King also tried to explain some concepts, basic concepts, in his letter. So in the letter, he chose more light on what it means when we say a law is just and unjust. And I quote, "An unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal law and natural law," meaning any law that uplifts human personality is just. That means the contrary is not just. He makes note of violence. He differentiates violence and nonviolence, saying that nonviolence direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. So that is what the movement seek to do. It wasn't a violent movement, but it was that which was non-violent. So non-violence does not steam up unhealthy tension characterized by chaos. So in response concerning, they also labeled him as an extremist, of which he first ignored, but going forward, he accepted that, let's say, tag, I would use the word tag, of being an extremist, using or referencing God, Jesus Christ being an extremist for love and all that. And the thing, the focus is that if only it is for the good cause, then he accepts being an extremist, sorry. And lastly, the impact of the letter was so that the Black and white ministers would understand why they are undergoing such movements, and so that they can sympathize with them and support them, bring about integration instead of segregation. Thank you.
Great, that was very good. That was also very well done. I could notice that portions you were reading, so I nearly gave you a 9. Not that you shouldn't read, but then I won't be able to vouch for the content. But I think I noticed also that you had some extra content, extra substance that you brought up, like the bit about the man being labeled an extremist and his counter response to that and stuff like that. That will be useful to the class. So then you scored your perfect mark. That was also another good critical summary. He hasn't done so much of an assessment here, a little bit of critiquing here and there, which is fine. That is going to be done collectively with the class. So thank you, Benedict and Kama. Thank you, Group 2. You can all see the scores on your screen as we go along, okay? And we can all bear with our colleagues. Let's take Group 3 now. On my file, I have Group 3 Eunice Erica Hiato, Victor Ayamba, Adelaide Crossland, George Frederick Buche, Emilia Quarti, Papa Phil, and then Frank Yeboah. Let me know, of course, when you submit the hard document, I will know those who actually participated. So it is not a straightforward 10 marks for everyone, really. Okay, let's hear Group 3 now, quickly. Let's see the hand for the one representing the Group 3. Bene, you are done, so kindly put your hand down now. Group 3, quickly, who is representing you? The Eunice, Erica Hiato, Victor Ayamba. Okay, I see Adelaide's hand. If it's a consensus, then Adelaide, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his letter from jail in response to criticisms that were leveled against him by some 8 white clergymen about about the protest that he led. So he tries to respond to some of these criticisms, and one was that he is a stranger because he didn't live in he didn't live in the city, but he responds to this criticism by saying
apologies. I will interrupt just one. The word is Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Yeah,
Birmingham.
I think the G is silent, so Birmingham. And colleagues, everyone has gone through that. So I thought I should type. You would always want to just type in that in your search engine on Google and then enter it and ask it to sound it for you before your presentation, so you know it. At least you have a fair idea of how it is pronounced. Okay. Sorry, I shut up now. Please go ahead.
Okay, so he responds to this criticism by saying that he was invited to Birmingham to support the African American citizens' fight for civil rights. And I quote, he says that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so he argues that because there is injustice in Birmingham, he's here to help support them. And also he rebutes the critics' claim that segregation laws should be fought in courts and not in the streets. And he explains that the direct action they have can force the white majority to confront the issue of racism and enter into true dialogue. And then he also says that he does not advocate for complete disregard of the law, but the deliberate efforts to resist unjust law. And he says that his premise for civil disobedience was is somewhat pointed to the biblical account of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's refusal of King Nebuchadnezzar when a higher moral law was in question. So in addition to responding directly to the criticisms brought forth by the clergymen, he uses his letter to make his own judgment as well. He expresses extreme disappointment in the white moderates, whom he considers more detrimental to the cause of racial equality. He condemns the fact that moral claims to support the mission while rejecting all attempts at direct action, and that he would rather be considered an extremist for the cause of justice than to stand by passively and allow those injustices to persist. And then he also extends his criticisms to the leaders of the white church for championing the status quo. He explains that the church seemed to behave passively, and even though in the Bible all humans are equal and all that, they do not they are trying to stand by the status quo, which was that white people were more superior than the black people, which was rather hurting them. And then according to him, systematic racism has left the African American community with no alternative to direct action, which is since the eight clergymen criticized him for the direct action and said that it would be better for them to go to court. He's actually trying to defend their actions by saying that the courts, since they were already being discriminated against, their direct action was the best course of action for them at that point in time. Yeah, I think that's what I can say about our week.
Thank you very much, Adelaide. You've done very well. Any team member wants to augment it before I score? There's a team of 6, I think. So Adelaide has done her bit, which is very good and well done. I think she also spoke extemporaneously, much part of it. Can I have George Doche beef it up a little so I don't underscore you? I don't want you to score anything less than 10 or 10. So just Frederick Doche, quickly add something content-wise. Go ahead. Are you there, Frederick?
Hello, Doc.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Could you add something regarding why a certain law will be considered, say, unjust, according to Martin Luther, or the method that
Hello,
you
Doc,
would
please. I
adopt,
can't hear you well.
the method that you would have to adopt so that your disobedience of the law will not constitute another injustice, because then it is not right to use injustice to correct injustice. This is very strong in Martin Luther's paper that you have read. Would you touch on that or something regarding why a certain law for Martin Luther would be what? Considered unjust? Say something around that.
Hello, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Doc. Hello, Doc.
Hello, George. I can hear you clearly. I think your colleagues can hear me too. Can you hear me, please?
Please, the line is breaking. I can't hear you very well.
Oh, is it better now?
Hello, Doc.
Is it better now?
Hey.
Okay, let me take Frankie
Hello,
Eboa
Doc.
then. It's fine, Frederick. It's fine. Let's take Frankie Eboa. Frankie Eboa, can you hear me, please?
Yes, Doc.
Go ahead. You heard what I said. I was asking if you could say something else for your group to add to the very good effort Adelaide put in to present what you discussed. Something on why Martin Luther will think of certain laws as unjust and for which reason he will advocate for a civil disobedience. Okay, or you could touch on what was the other thing I said, so that I don't give away the other question. So touch on that. I want a little addition on why a certain is unjust. Yeah. And then I also asked what method
Okay, look, I think this,
you should adapt so that you do not create an injustice even in your bid to search for justice. He insists on some 4 steps that you should take so that you ensure that your disobedience of the law doesn't create an injustice or touch on that. Frank, go ahead.
okay, look, I think that during that period, the law that on American people were not universally just, as in it favors the white majority. It clearly says that it is not justified, it's not just because some
Very
people
good.
are excluded.
Don't say anything again. I'm convinced. So the law is favoring some and not others. That alone will make it unjust, according to Martin Luther. Even further, and that might take away somebody's point in the other groups ahead. You see, even more annoying for him will be where that law, which is already discriminatory and favors some and not others, that law was itself created or the law was set up by what a few for the whole. That will even be the worst part of it. If a few of you go and make a law that favors you without allowing the other half of us to be part of that decision making, when we were not sick and we were not dead, we were there. But you have a law that prevents us from being part of the decision making. That's discriminatory law, not only in the nature of the law itself, but in how it was created. The law was created. According to Martin Luther, such a law is unjust and therefore must be disobeyed, of course, by adopting a certain method. Thank you very much. That scores group 3 or so. Perfect 10. Well done. The ladies are doing very well so far. What men can do, women do go through one. Maybe perhaps even better. Brothers. So I'm going to my group 4 now. On my file for group 4, still on civil disobedience, Martin Luther King Jr. You are trying to do a critical summary. If you're able to do a critical assessment, or you even discuss and explore or analyze, all the better. I'll be so impressed. But the basic that you can do is to do a critical summary. Group 4, I see Magdalena Koko Abiko, Esther Ameyausu, Anobia Adjoa Amfo Akono, Yvonne Deyo Angmote, Samuel Apia, and then Mary Sikumsen. And I want a good rep. The person speaking is speaking for the team. So who is that? Kindly put your hand up quickly for group 4, I think, and then we move fast. We don't have all the time. So please, if I skip you, it's a 0 straight. There are 6 of you. There. Quickly, please. If the person is struggling with network or something, the other person would have the document. Kindly put up your hand quickly and represent the group. Don't mar our nice session together so far, please. The names for my group 4 that I see on Sakai currently are Magdalena Koko Abiko, Esther Meyausu, Anobia Adjoa Amfo Akono, Yvonne Deyo Angmote, Samuel Apia, and Mary Isikumsen. Who is presenting for the group? Thank you, Mary Kumsen. Go ahead.
Okay, Doc. With our presentation, we talked about Martin King Jr. And in the introduction, we talked about his life, like some parts of his life. And it was Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, in United States of America, on the 15th of January. And he was a minister and an activist who became the most visible spokesman and leader in the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. Sorry. Okay, so with the body, we talked about how he wrote a letter from Birmingham jail. Yes, about like how he got it, how he got to the jail. And with his letter, he said, okay, Martin Luther wrote a letter from Birmingham jail where he was imprisoned due to his participation in the non-violence demonstration against segregation. And with the segregation, it refers to with the segregation laws, they are the immoral and unjust laws. So he was called on a phone to visit the Birmingham, so that
Hello, Doc. Hello, Doc.
I am here, but I
Please,
think
can I
Mary,
take over from? Please, can I take over from Mary Compson?
I would want us to have it a little bit more organized, because it can be very offensive to a colleague who boldly opts to speak.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes,
Don't
ma'am.
worry.
Yes,
But if Mary willingly wants Magdalene to take up, because sometimes you plan, but then you see that we are a team. Mary,
Okay.
if you
so,
say
Doc, please, I want her to continue.
okay, very well done. Okay, you've done your bit so far. Magdalene, next time I
Thank
think
you
you
very
should
much.
start. If you are very confident like that, start. Okay. All right, go ahead,
Okay.
Magdalene. Thank you very much, Mary.
Okay.
Keep going. Go.
Okay. So with King Luther or Dr. Luther, he came to the should I say the state in which racism was being dominant, where the authorities partially or favored more of the whites than the blacks. And he came to this state to on a non-violent campaign. And with his own terms, he brought up or mentioned certain methods, which were four, that would how like basic steps, according to him, of non-violent campaign, which was collection of facts to determine whether injustice were alive. Meaning, in that state, one should be sure or one should find certain proofs that would determine or make. Madam, please, I'm coming here. I'm confused.
You are not confused. You are a little pressed. Perhaps you didn't think that I would ask that each person or each group presents, and nobody knew that I would do that. If it were in class, we would have used so it's fine. It's just that your thoughts should be organized a bit, okay? So that will be for group. Yes, I'm just saying that the group should have their thoughts organized in points.
Okay.
Like we do our philosophical text. You see that? So you see that your first paragraph will be discussing a background to him if you wanted to, which I wouldn't even apply. Then the second paragraph may be touching on the key philosophical views that he's putting across. Note that the content we are dealing with is philosophy. Don't lose your train of thought yet, your trail of thought. Then the third point, maybe you attempted a critical analysis of his view or not. I do not know. But that's how you should do it. So when you take a paragraph and you're even confused with that one, when you say one or two on that, you have to move. You know that the next paragraph is discussing, say, what he means by just and unjust law, or why he thinks that, excuse me, you should embark on what? Civil disobedience only as a last resort after you've gone through a certain number of steps. If you even said those, you have touched on key things. Okay, so let's have it that way. A last attempt for the group to score a very good mark. It won't be a perfect score yet, though, but you can still make something that is workable. Go ahead, Magdalene, or any other member of the group you may want to help. Go ahead, Magdalene.
Okay. Okay, he brought about certain things that would try to destroy racism or racism in that state. And one of his quotes were, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that," which meant he was speaking about brotherhood, encouraging the people, the authorities and all those who took part in this act. He was discouraging them from performing or going into such acts. which was his aim for his campaign. That's all I can see now.
All right. Thank you very much, Magdalene. So I give both Magdalene and the other lady, I think it was just a minute. That's group 4. So I think Magdalene spoke, and so did Mary Esikumsen. Let me hear from Esther Meyawusu. What did you make of your group discussion? Esther, please go ahead for group 4. Anything you saw or when you engaged as a group, that is, if you did engage as a group, can you tell us what contributions you either made or you gathered from the discussion? Go ahead, Esther. I want to hear you. Esther, are you here? I want to hear you, else you score a 0 and your colleagues may see whatever they score. Go ahead, I can hear you clearly. Esther, go ahead. I can hear you clearly. Esther.
Hello.
Esther, Esther, I can hear you. I'm listening. I have patience for you, but go ahead.
Okay. Martin Luther King died at the age of 39 years. And I added that I contributed that he died at the age of 49.
I don't want
Hello.
to see. Listen, Esther, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Esther,
I can hear you.
So you tell me the 4 steps, or the steps that Martin Luther says we should go through before. If we went through all the earlier steps and it's not successful, then we embark on the direct action. Okay. Tell me any one of them and explain what he means by that, which are all literally dito from the text. He advises that we do certain things before we engage on in direct action to register our displeasure or our disgust for certain laws. We should do certain things before. What are they? List any one of them. Let me see if you engage the test. Because I don't want to score a 0 without being convinced that you didn't do the work. So I'm giving you opportunity, Esther. Go ahead. Esther, are you there? Okay, so Esther is unable to give a response. So I'll take
No.
Go ahead. I can hear you, please, Esther. Esther, can you hear me? Can you hear us, Esther? Maybe you cannot hear us. You have the opportunity to do another group work if you scored a 0 for this one. Okay, let me take someone else in that same group. So Magdalene has given her account of her work. Mary has done same. Esther, I think we are having a difficulty with connection. I hope it is not the case. I hope that is the case and not something else. So let me take Anopia Adjoa Amfuakono, still in group 4. Anopia, tell us what you saw in the text or what you contributed to the discussion when you engaged, or what someone else contributed that you learned from them. Anyways.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
I saw that there was a president called Benjamin Elijah Mays, who was a very how do I say it, a role model of some sorts to him. He liked his works and he encouraged him. He was one of the very what's the word? He was inspired by him. That's the word. He was inspired by President Benjamin Mays, who was an advocate for he was a staunch advocate for racial equality, and his works had a huge impact on Martin Luther King Jr. He took his first steps to being an activist by writing that letter to the editor of Atlanta Constitution. And he stated in his letter that African Americans were entitled to the basic rights and opportunities that all the American citizens were entitled to. And throughout his lifetime, he didn't relent in showing his selfless nature. It was in December 1955 that he, alongside some other activists, planned a citywide protest, which they called the Montenegro bus boycott. It was in this protest was done in a bid to fight for the civil rights of the African Americans, because
you are reading, my lady, you're doing very well, but you are reading something that has been Googled and packaged, and I can pull the link for you to see. I'm just asking because the group has already presented. It wasn't too good, even though the ladies pushed at it as best they could. I don't want to score the other 0. I'm trying to test to see if you did a group work like you were required to, or you didn't. So I'm giving you an opportunity. And that is why I'm asking you to tell us what you read, not a summary that you can Google right now and see. I have it. What you are reading, I have it on my desktop, right? I can show you the link. You see that? So tell me what you engage. Say, let me give you a prompting. Like you can say that, talk about the 4 steps that Martin Luther's paper, which I've given you to read, tells us to engage before we embark on direct action. Give me any one of the steps. Just then we can think.
Gather information.
How does he put it? He gives you a label for that. What label? You see, because I'm trying to see if you have engaged the text. Okay, he gives 4 steps. What's the first one? Anybody wants to give us that first one, please?
Madam Doc.
Yes, please.
Collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are alive.
How does he label that, Magli? It's very correct, but he gives it a name. Okay, what's the second one? Let me take that. What's the second one?
Negotiation.
Very good. What's the third one?
Self-purification.
Very good. These are all coming from where? Magdalene?
Yes, please.
Magdalene, tell me the truth. Did the team meet as a group?
Yes, madam, we did, but we didn't meet face to face. We
are having a very fruitful discussion now, but it's not face to face. You see that? We are having a very, very good discussion currently. I'm learning so many things from you as a class now.
Yes.
Very fruitful.
Yes.
It is not face to face. So it's not the face to face that is the issue. How many of you were directly participating in the discussion, please?
Okay. 4.
Very
good. But I can't really pinpoint the name. Yes.
Yes, it shows. Thank you very much. Let me take one last person still in the group. Other group members, please bear with us. The essence of the group work is to encourage us to learn and to build collaboration skills, ability to engage. See how the other sister wanted to come in. Oh, Doc, please, I want to help when Mary was doing her best, but it wasn't pushed. I'm trying to develop that skill in us, cooperation, teamwork. This is our department, this is our church, this is our nation. Let's make it work. It's a skill. We want to develop that. So it's not a show of crutchy powers. Yes. Is it Magdalene?
Please, can I? Yes, please. Please, can I say something?
I think we've spoken enough. Don't worry. Okay. Don't worry at all.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Let me take Yvonne Angmoti. Yvonne, I hope I pronounce your surname. Yvonne, tell us what you're so engaged. Was it Yvonne that we spoke with?
Pardon?
Yvonne, go ahead.
Please, Martin Luther King Jr. imagined a future in which the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners could sit down together at the table of brotherhood. A future in which his 4 children are judged not by color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And then he said that there comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plunged into an abyss of injustice. And
very, very important. That is very important. That is very important, a contribution that the lady is making. Martin Luther says, if we don't stop this injustice that is going on now, and so others have already enlightened us on what he meant by injustice. Unfair law, for example, a law that is not hinged in the moral code. So a law that doesn't respect the dignity of a human person, he thinks that is not a just law. And he says if such a law is not discontinued, we have to push for it to be discontinued. If not, people will not endure the repercussions of that law for too long. Before long, you see, ensure tar upon or the war. Yeah, that is there. I don't know how to say that in English, but literally, if the frog is overly, if the frog is ensure tana, war, people cannot bear something over and over and over again, especially if it's an injustice. Before long, the kind of reaction that will come will be more detrimental in its effect than if the person had reacted at the first instance of that injustice. Because the thing has pained him, and like some fathers who like sometimes, quote and unquote, will suppress and oppress their children over and over again. Sometimes when the child becomes a young adolescent or something, when daddy pulls the cane to hit him or her, he holds the father's hand and pushes him down. Something maybe he wouldn't have literally done. Martin Luther's paper, apart from all that has been said, says there is an urgency laid or placed on those that are not suffering that kind of injustice to act with immediate effect, because people will not continually bear the brunt of that unjust law. And when they react, the reaction will be worse than what will happen if they reacted now that it is not too heavy on their neck. You see that's the point. And that is why I am tempted to, based on my lady's additional effort, I think we can give our group 4 some 8 marks for only those who participated. And that includes those I have engaged currently. Okay. Others that couldn't contribute, I'll give you another group work to do. So you earn a mark, but you won't earn a mark in this one. I think it's a fair deal. All right. So now we can move on quickly to group 5. Unless there's a question. What I'm doing now is taking feedbacks from you, so that when I now start helping you to see the main philosophical points of interest in the text, you would have already engaged the raw text. So you know what I'm trying to reference. Then I will only help you open it out, do analysis, do critical evaluation, find the substance in it that are of philosophical interest. And then you can now do your critique or examination of it. That's what my work is. And for this group work, I'm rewarding you for doing what you should be doing all the time before you engage content with me. Okay, so for group 5, thank you very much, Magdalene and Isikum-Sen, Anobia, everyone there. Okay, Yvonne, well done. Now take group 5. Foster Ajekum Mensah, Joseph Nati Apenting, George Nita Kidazi, Portia Dakum, Rosalind Ligay, and then Emanuela Owusu Ejekun. Manuela, I don't think they spelled your name well in the system. You may want to correct it later. They've done Emanula. I don't know if that is your correct name, though. All right. Any one of you quickly, kindly put your hand up. Any one of you quickly. After this, we'll leave the first half of the group work there and then take those who are doing Crito. And I'll call in no specific order, so be on standby. Ajekum Mensah, Foster. Thank you, sir. Please go ahead with your summary on critical, with your critical summary on Martin Luther. Go ahead, Ajekum, sir. You are muted, though. So sorry. Foster Ajekum Mensah, group 6. Hey, group 5, Israel. Group 5. Oh dear. I can't hear you. I could help you unmute from where I am.
Hello, madam.
Yes, we can hear you now. You're audible. Go ahead.
Madam, please, the group leader has the work right now. Rosina.
Hey, who is Rosina? Which group are you in, sir?
Rosalind.
Big boss, it's a
Madam,
group work. When you finish group work, own a copy.
Madam, please, I
You
lost
have
my phone. I just signed into somebody's
Oh
phone.
dear, oh
That's
dear.
the word.
Sorry about that. But you just need
No,
to own a copy of the group. Do you know why? You know why? Look, you see what is happening now?
no, madam.
You have, because one, yeah, zero nearby, you will get a zero.
Madam, please,
So
we
just
continue.
not a
We were only two. We did it. She has submitted it.
Hey,
But
please, 2 people out of 6 cannot be a
yes,
group work.
please.
No,
Yes,
please,
please.
that is not a group work. Everyone scores a zero.
Madam,
I see.
madam, please, they all left the
Oh, my brother, I'm not solving. Look at these are the people who cause confusion for us. So. Eh?
and they dropped the course.
I
So
did
I'm giving them
mention,
the course.
boss. Yeah, your class rep's hand is up. Let me take him, okay? Emmanuel, yes, go ahead. Your hand is up, please.
Hello, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Emmanuel.
Doc, please, concerning Rosalind, she told me that today she didn't make it to class.
Please,
because
don't
she's
worry.
facing some.
I suspect that, yeah, don't, because we are recording, I don't think we want to put her personal information here. I'm talking about the group members. So Rosalind is not there now.
Madam, we were only 2.
Hold on. I'm coming, sir, okay? Let's have a very nice, this is the beginning of the week, so we don't want to start it quickly for you. We have to have a very fruitful week, okay? So Foster and Rosalind work. Joseph Nate Apenteng, are you there, Jonate? Okay, so
Doc, please, he said
Joseph,
he has dropped the course. Joseph,
okay.
That's Joseph.
No problem. So he's not here.
Thank you.
Okay, George Nitaki, are you here, please? George Nitaki Dazi, are you here, please? Okay, no. Don't worry about if the person is not here, it's not a headache. That is, if the person is not with the course, it's not a problem. But where the person is doing the course, but is not doing the requirement of the course, they'll score a 0. You see how patient I am? I'm going through step by step. If your presentation goes well, maybe the people even didn't do too much work, but well, the finished document, that's the essence of group work. The finished work shows a combination of everybody's input. So we had it and we like it. It covered so much. Others in other groups will benefit. That's what we are trying to achieve. But if they didn't produce any outcome, it's not good news. The score is 0. Okay, my conscience is clear. So George Nitakidazi, are you here, sir? Okay. No. Poshiadakon, please, are you here? Poshiadakon, please, are you here? All right. Then Emanuela Ouswe Japan. Is it Emanuela Ouswe Japan here, please? Emanuela Ouswe Japan, are you here? Okay. So thank you. At least I have feedback from Ajekum and then Rosalind, and we will get to hear them present the content that they have. And it cannot be on what we've done so far because that one we have discussed. So they will get another group work and then they will produce content that will be best. That is the best way to mitigate their scoring at 0 for substance. Okay, thank you very much. I'll take the next group now. Let's go to group 6. But because I said we would have shifted to the other group, but this group didn't present, so we can still take group 6, which is Deborah Isiama Sarah Yesuto Achu, Rita Dalcon, Dorothy Nade, Johnny Blankson, then Monu Gebasi, Nadia Dede Kwe. Any one of you could kindly present for Martin Luther King Jr. Very good. Monu, go ahead. I knew you put up your hand. Go ahead. You're muted, please. So just unmute and then. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Go ahead, sir.
We are presenting on the summary of the civil disobedience of the law by Martin Luther King Jr. According to social contract hypothesis, everyone in the community must abide by a set of political principles in order for everyone to live together to live together in harmony, unlike the state of nature, which has given rise to everyone to do as he or she pleases, which lead to destruction of harmony or peaceful coexistence among people. The King Jr. believed that all men are created equal and should enjoy equal rights and privileges. One of his most poignant lines from his most famous works, and I quote, "I have a dream," a speech that his children will not be judged by the content of their color, but rather their character. Martin Luther King Jr. gives more comprehensive perspective on social contract bureaucracy, which serves as a theoretical link between Dr. King's principle and teaching of reasonable contracts. In light of the contextual realities of derogatory human behavior such as prejudice, discrimination, and biasness, Dr. King's humanistic preference of universality, desire, and love demonstrates a theoretical weakness of settlement. The issue of biasness, prejudice diminishes intelligence due to situation of all led by Dr. King and many others to support the causes of marginalized can be used as an allegory to illustrate fallacies in the context of negotiation for Luther. There is theology, dialogue, which philosophy is important. He maintained, however, that rationality that is not explicitly grounded in the theology of creation will not develop an adequate worldview.
My
Following his
father,
emphasis,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have tried not to, but you are not responding to Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail directly. You see that? He's an author, so he's well read and well written. He's a religious folk. He has other writings he's done. We are discussing, should we obey the state? That is the theme. And we are looking at a certain paper by that author that speaks to that issue. Okay. So I am asking, what did you see in that text as a critical summary? Not as you, an individual, because if you are one, it's likely you may have been reading something else that is on Martin Luther, but you didn't know that is not relevant. But it's a group that met to discuss. So did the group write what you have written down? What did you reference to do that? What at all is Martin Luther's letter from Birmingham jail trying to put across? What? Okay. Let me guide you that way so that you can get marks. Otherwise, you will score a 0. And I don't want that to happen. Go ahead.
Okay. Madam, please, Martin Luther King Jr. is trying to say that, like, his children, like, to be judged based on their character, but not on their skin color. And he's saying that all men are created equal and we should be given equal rights in the society.
Very good. So that is fine. What is the issue that he was dealing with, which we can now tease out and make a case for why we should obey the state and when we should obey the state and how we should obey the state? You see that? We are going to tease out for us. So what do you see in his text? Okay, so much has been said already. Let me now touch on what does he think should be very important even when we are pursuing direct action, correct and error. After we've gone through negotiation, we've gathered the fact, we've done cleansing, we are sure that we are targeting the issue and all that. So we embark on direct action, say demonstration. Remember, he says it should be non-violent. When we are embarking on it, what should we avoid and why? That can help you add something that hasn't been said. That is to the class, not necessarily to you, Monu. I said the class, the group with 6 members. Is a hand up?
Dog, please.
Please put your hand up. I want to know who, because I'm rewarding the effort. Thank you, Monu. Monu was only reading stuff that has been downloaded from online. If the group did that, don't try that with yours truly, okay? I think that not to sound too known, but I'm better than that. If I ignore it, it's because maybe I'm rewarding the person for something else. But I can catch you even in the language that you are using. Ask anybody. I did quite a lot of stuff for people. Okay. As young a colleague as I am in the department, I do so much. I can tell when you start writing, and also you do much at the back. Okay, so I don't even need plagiarism checker sometimes. The tone, then the issue we are discussing helps us know what you are writing is not something that was put down by the team. You just Googled Martin Luther King Jr. and stuff came and you did. You are right, you are reproducing that for me. And that should have been a straightforward 0, but I want to be extremely patient. Sarah, to go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Doc, please, in his paper, he said Martin Luther King Jr. emphasized that the law shouldn't favor some people and the law should apply to everyone equally. Shouldn't favor some. The law shouldn't be made to favor some people and leave some people out.
Yes. Please. So you are trying to show some of the things that if it persists will make a law unjust, isn't it, Sarah?
Yes, please, Doc.
Okay, that is good. Thankfully, you yourself said I said that. So what else did he add? Sarah, Yesuto, I have a friend called Yesuto, a very good friend. So I can't be hard on you, but just add something else. You see, you have to earn the mark. If you read it, there are plenty. If we start going through the paper, you see, I've asked your class rep to share the PDFs that one of the main campus gentlemen came to pick the document here and then did a scan of them. So maybe that is a little bit safer than if you are just photocopying the raw thing. Okay. And so I've shared it to you. If you look at the document, you will see there is so much the man is saying. Some of them you haven't touched on, which are philosophically interesting. Okay. So tell me some additional one, Sarah, so that the group doesn't score 0. I am trying to summarize group 5 people's destiny. It's only 2 of them that gets an opportunity at making amends. One because class rep holds up for Rosalind Lige, and then Foster Ajikum, I want to be extremely liberal with him. Because if you know you are 2, there are 2 of you, and you finish a work, you should have a copy of it. You own it too. You see, like land papers or car papers, if you are joint owners, why would you leave the original with only one of you? What if she changes her mind and gets another guy? You have lost out big time. You can't do that, a philosopher. Okay, so you should own a copy, but I would allow him the opportunity to take another group work. So Foster and Rosalind gets another take at it, but the rest, I'm sorry. You understand how we are going. You score a 0. See how people are hot. See Mary Kumsin.
Thank you very much.
Oh, there's Ranaka, thank you. Now, I don't know how the due date I'll give you for that. People are struggling to make, I mean, they are putting in effort, embarrassment and all to earn a mark. Then people are saying that they want to get 10 when they've done nothing. I don't work that way. My love for you will not permit me to do that. So Foster and Rosalind get another tick. I'm waiting for you to talk. Yes, to talk. Add to it. Otherwise, group 6 will have the same issue there.
Okay.
The way my sister set us up nicely, I wasn't expecting that.
Okay.
Sometime in the middle we'll get hiccups like that, but it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. According to Martin Luther, a just law is man-made code that squares with moral law or law of God. So yeah, so my understanding of this is that
Okay,
Martin Luther.
thank you very much. That's fine. We have said that over and over again from the earlier presentation. So add something else. Give me any of the quotations you see. Martin Luther made a lot of quotes. He's just quoting people to make his point that justice, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I've just done that. You see, these are the things I'm looking for. The man says that. So even though the thing is not directly affecting him, he thinks that he cannot operate the Zufia syndrome, the one that says mind your own business. I can't be bothered. because after all, I'm not the one they are meting out such injustice to. It is not our nation. Let them do their thing. Luther King's argument is, take note that injustice anywhere is actually a threat to justice everywhere. Where you think you have justice and others are the ones suffering the injustice, let them suffer. After all, it's not about us. We mind our own business. And the panty person, I think in the past, blessed memory, past president of blessed memory, and we celebrated his 10 years yesterday. He said, whatever is happening in Cote d'Ivoire, mind your own business. Of course, the context is different. But the point is, sometimes when there is injustice somewhere, it affects us where we think we have justice. Our friend Martin Luther is not even saying something. He says, and he's quoting the one who makes that statement, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So he may not be the one directly affected. In fact, he tells his colleague blacks who may not be suffering that look, you think that you are better placed in society. You are not part of the colored folks that go through that. But you must remember that wherever there is injustice anywhere on this earth, it is actually a threat to justice everywhere. So see some stuff going on all the way Russia and Ukraine, but some folks that have perhaps such a kind of understanding might think that whatever the injustice is that is going on, say in Iraq, say in Libya, and what have you, then would be a threat on justice somewhere else. Of course, we know that sometimes there are intonations, there are other reasons why. If oil is flowing there, people will be interested in the injustice there and all that. But this is one thing that comes out strongly in King, and no one is touching that. I think one of you did, one of the group presentations, when I was quiet and listening. He did very well on that. Then he gives some other quotes. So look into the text. See how much time I've given you to go through the textbook quickly. I'm just doing everything so that the people will have time. Yes, have you found something? You are looking, it doesn't look, eh? Okay, the right hand is up. Let me see. I just kept talking. I know that you will be using the time to still train back. Okay, thank you, Yesu. Let me take a Blankson. Doro, go ahead.
Hello, Doc.
Yes,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So Martin Luther stated that violence is not an answer to anything unless otherwise. So he assured everyone that with a peculiar procedure issues will be solved with less violence, and this is stipulated that the parties involved must come together and to be willing to come to an agreement that would favor everyone. And they then must state their issues independently and present them to the table for discussion.
You, Mate.
So,
thank you. Go on, keep going.
So Martin Luther then they then can negotiate where one or two things will be agreed upon to avoid further confrontations.
Yeah. So then you see that.
Hello.
Finish. Go on.
So he then proceeded to the next. That was the non-violence demonstration. The non-violence demonstration, where they should be sure that they will be heard. Yeah. So some important features of this led to several achievements of Martin Luther King Jr. as he was able to send a letter from them. Please, can you help me with that?
My sister, thank you very much. Birmingham. It's Birmingham.
Yes,
yes. Look it up next time, eh? An academic. So let's do that to help ourselves. I also struggle with some of the words sometimes. If I don't know how to mention it, sometimes it has Latin or something to connotation. I just Google it, and then I ask it to form. It will tell you. Then it will tell you it is Birmingham. The G is silent. The G is silent. Birmingham. Then you learn it. You add to what you know. Okay? There are sum up. Okay? Sum it up.
He then protested against racism and equality. So
Hey,
his fight led to several housing projects.
stop. He protested against equality. Really? Okay, thank you,
Racism.
Martin.
Racism.
No, Doc, you mean inequality.
I heard
Sorry.
Martin.
Racism.
You know how
Racism
the
and
earlier
inequality.
submissions, don't worry, do you know how the earlier submissions, I had my microphone muted because I was marking. So if you make an error like this, I won't say it, I'll just be marking it wrong. And then when I finish, I'll put the 8 there, or 7, or 6, depending on how the people performed. And I think that the earlier groups all did well. You can play back later and see. Okay. So you wouldn't have even heard me comment like this, so you correct it. Because it's important you say what you mean. Okay. All right. So this group 2 did their best, but I don't think it was good enough. We can all bear witness. But the few that spoke at least will earn themselves a 6 mark each. Digital and co. The rest will score a 0. I have the file, so I'll just check. The rest score a 0. Okay. I want to help you sum up, then we can move for some few presentations on Crito, the Crito paper. That is a huge relief for some people who are not ready for the Crito paper. They say, hey, ready? We can breathe before. Yes, you can. I want to help people see the thrust of Martin Luther's paper. Remember what we are dealing with. We are trying to understand why we should obey the state, or whether we should obey the state, or whether and how and when we should obey the state. We are querying our obedience to the state, whether it is to be indefinite or there's a condition attached to it. And if we did our group work well, and I believe most of you did, just a few hiccups here and there, then we will see a feedback from King and Crito's paper, which helps us have different perspectives to how the obedience of the state, if at all, should be done. A good discussion of that will now set us up well to understanding Wolves in Defense of Anarchism, a paper that by now you should have the PDF also on your WhatsApp platforms. You'll see it there. I sent it to the classroom to copy you. I'm not obliged to send you any content that you have access to, but I thought that it will help some of you to do that. So connect with your class rep manually if you don't have it yet, and then you have it. If I make time and I remember, I'm just teaching back to back, then I can put it in your resource too also for you. But that one we have to be a bit minded because of our instruction and the copyright issues there. Okay. All right. So I was just saying that if you got Martin Luther King's paper very well, you will see that the gentleman wants to tell us, and so you can start making your highlighted notes for yourself. You have done all the presentation. I'm just highlighting a few things that are philosophically interesting in the text, and that can help your critical assessment. He wants you to know that the legal may not necessarily be just. So write that down. What is legal, what is law, may not necessarily be just. For you to see why he would say that we may be allowed, it may be justifiable to disobey the law. It may be justifiable to disobey the law. So he's making a case for what? Civil disobedience. Disobedience of the law in a civil manner by civilians. His letter from Birmingham jail makes a case for what? Civil disobedience. So you are disobeying, but you do it in a civil manner because the man is trying to ensure that justice is done. And to ensure that justice is done, you don't apply injustice to seek for justice. That is what the lady who spoke last was trying to put across. You don't use evil to correct evil. So the fact that something is legal does not make it what? Just. It may be the law, says Luther King Jr., but it may not be just. And if it is not just, then according to him, We are entitled. In fact, we are obliged. We have a moral obligation, right, Dada, to ensure that that unjust law is, I don't know if the word is abrogated or taken off, simple language. We must ensure that that unjust law is corrected. It is not something that we have a choice about. Well, the law is not good, but well, in Janice, let's let. No. He says you are obligated morally. You have a duty to ensure that that is corrected. So those who have the textbook, start looking at it. I want to see if I can project the slide for that. But let your group work thing be there. So take I said the textbook, the slide if you have it. If not, the PDF if you have it. If you don't have it, I can just walk you through. Can always refer to it later. So the introduction is all the story part. The narratives are not philosophically useful. This is level 300. So whether it was 39 years or 100 years, really, it's not useful to us for this our debate. Okay, our discussion. This philosophy. Okay, please, so I beg all of you. So try when he was born and who was his mentor and all that are not useful unless you are using that to make a certain salient point about his philosophy. That because he was influenced by so and so author, so he writes so and so. That would be different. But if not, then it's not relevant. So the first paragraph tells you while he's in prison, he tries to respond to some of the queries. And he says, I'm not obliged to respond to you, and I normally don't when I know that I'm working on the basis of principle. But I think some of you genuinely have a concern, and he was addressing his fellow clergymen. So he tells you, I know that you are genuinely concerned. You felt that I haven't done something right, or perhaps something has gone bad. So I just want to respect you. And in the bid to do that, I'll react to some of the points you people made when you queried my instrumental, how instrumental I was in embarking on the direct action, which one of you told us went bad and people were hurt. So that's the introduction, the first paragraph there. Okay, the next one says, I think I should give the reason for my being in Birmingham. He tells them, I am there, even though I don't stay there and I am not affected by the injustices going on there. But some people had called me there. People who felt that they were being wrongly dealt with called me there. Now, even if they did not, this is Martin Luther's case. Wherever there is injustice, you, the other folks that are not suffering that injustice, you have an obligation to correct that injustice, because injustice anywhere, I've said that earlier, is a threat to justice everywhere. That's the point he makes. So keep that quote. There is nothing like mind your own business. As the bird from the tortoise who was under the tree there, and the bird was up the tree, shouting and making noise, whilst the hunter was looking around for meat, game. This bird was up there shouting ahead. Hey, then the ahuma, the rope or the, I don't know how to string, or the plant, the walking plant, so to speak, climbing plant, that's the name, kept telling the tortoise, won't you tell this? Oh no, tortoise kept telling the climbing plant, won't you tell the bird to bring her voice down? She will attract attention to us. The hunter is around. The string said, this bird, the way she insults people, when you go and tell her anything, she will insult me. Come in. She will insult me. Let me mind my own business. Let her sing. So tortoise under the tree, bird up the tree, the climbing plant on the tree being the mediator between the bird and the tortoise. He won't say anything to the bird. Tortoise kept saying that, please ask her to remain quiet, because what she's doing will endanger all of our lives. Because the climbing plant knows that for it is not food. So if hunter comes, it won't affect it. It says, I can't be bothered. It is bird and tortoise that are meat, edible. Climbing plant is not. When finally, we know the story, when finally the bird is hurt and she falls down to where tortoise is, and tortoise's life is endangered, now the hunter will look for something to tie the two up. And that thing was the climbing plant. He found it very useful. So even though Hunter would not eat the climbing plant was also found wanting. When something is happening wrongly somewhere, and you think that, oh, this one after all is legal on campus, or it's the women, it's not gender, I mean, I'm a man, it's women issue. Wait until you go to the kitchen and there is no food, or there is sex strike by mothers and women. Then you understand that it has implications on your life. When people are spending wrongly the resources, don't say, these people, let them, maybe I'm not going to do that. When the repercussions come, it will affect you. That is the philosophy behind injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Okay? Now, the second paragraph is what I have tried to summarize for you in a very straightforward way. The gentleman talks about people that came somewhere to correct. So you see, it's a clergyman, it's a church person, okay? A pastor or a reverend, whatever you want to label you want to give. So you see him talking about Paul and Jesus Christ and stuff like that in that paragraph, trying to show that there is injustice there. And insofar as there is injustice there, he would come to ensure that what there is justice. The next paragraph, you should be looking. If you are scrolling, I think I should just quickly pull mine there so that you can follow. All right, so let me go to that PDF, then you look at it. If you have any question, then you stop me. I'll bring your end marks after the class and project it on Sakai. Then you tweak your document a little bit based on the discussions today and upload it before close of day. When you tweak it here and there, the tweaking will help you make it better than what you see there. Okay, what you were initially going to present. Oh dear. Which version is this that the gentleman shared? It's the same thing, but it doesn't look like mine. So let me just tell you what I see there. Then you can look out for that in your paper. Where am I? Got muted. I don't know why you have unmuted. Do you have something to say? Do you have something you want to say? My friend who has unmuted your mic. Jessica, keep your thing muted, I beg you. So we move on to the next paragraph. Our friend just says that the bit on injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere is captured directly in the fourth paragraph of that paper that I have shared. If you don't see it that way, send me a message and I'll pull my version for you, which is straightforward and simple, straightforward paragraphs for you to be able to access. Now, he says, you deplore the demonstrations that are presently taking place in Birmingham, but I'm sorry that your statement did not express a similar concern for the conditions that brought the demonstrations into being. So he tells his colleagues that you are more concerned about the effect, write it down, in trying to ensure justice. Your focus should not be on the effect more than it is on the cause. You should diagnose the cause. And it is the cause that will lead to what? The effect. So if you are all interested in the cause, the effects of it that has emanated, you won't be able to determine whether a law or an action is just or not. You are just looking at the demonstrations people embarked on and how others also reacted to it. But have you forgotten that there is something that led to that effect that you see? He's telling his clergy man. And that is where he starts, being a little hard on them, showing them that because they are comfortable, they felt there is justice. I'm sure that each of you would want to go beyond the superficial social analyst who looks merely at effects. You see what I said? And does not grapple with the underlying causes. I would not hesitate to say that it is unfortunate that so-called demonstrations are taking place in Birmingham at this time. But I would say in more emphatic terms that it is even more unfortunate that the white power structure of this city left the Negro community with no other alternative. So what is the philosophically interesting bit? If there are no alternatives left, it makes sense to embark on what? A direct action, non-violent one at that. You are not giving us any options. There is no room for appeal, because the appeal process itself would say that if you are white, then you are entitled to it. If you are black, you are not. So there is no way people can express their grievance. That will call for direct action, says Martin Luther, which is what I did with a team of people. And you say it doesn't concern me. Why did I do? Well, there was an injustice. An injustice anywhere. It's a threat to justice everywhere. Okay, any questions? If you have one. So then to the next paragraph. In any nonviolent campaign, those of you who never saw that, in any non-violent campaign, there are 4 basic steps. I got some feedback from some of you that highlighted it. Collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are there or alive. Next, negotiate. Next, self-purification, and then direct action. Those are the 4 steps. First, ensure that there are injustices. It's not a skin pain. Not that something is happening and you are jealous, so you are angry. No. Let us ensure that there is an injustice going on. The women are being given better grades than the guys without explanation, because the lecturer is a female. Let's say that is what is going on. And you have been able to gather facts showing that the sister didn't even take the exam, but she has an A. She didn't even do an exam. How did she get an A? Then, so you've gathered evidence which express injustice, okay? Then you have tried to negotiate, that is, to seek audience with whoever is the authority, so to speak, to register your displeasure or to show that this is the injustice going on. You have tried to negotiate and ask that, no, I think we should have some redress to the difficulties we have gone through. Then self-purification, he goes through to explain all of them, and then if all that doesn't work, then go to what? Direct action. Self-purification is the place that you want to ensure that all that you thought you saw there is really an injustice. In these negotiation sessions, certain promises were made. He's referring to his. They were not met. When you gave the person the option to redress it, the person tells you, okay, give us 3 weeks, we'll pay your NAPCO, whatever, per the terms of contract that we use to engage you. So you go home. That one, when you go, you don't go doing the demonstration or direct action, says Martin Luther. You have to allow for self-purification. The people must be given the opportunity to correct what has gone wrong after the negotiation has gone. If UTAG went and we got some, negotiation table and stuff that, okay, please, we will pay so and so and so and so time. Then you don't go doing a direct action until that is also abused or disrespected and the injustice pertains. You remember the COLA in recent times. Of course, it's social and political. So some of the matters are social, some are political. Before you see anyone, in most instances, embarking on direct action, it means that the 3 steps might have been what? I said might, I know what I said, might have been overlooked. And so the persons feel that the injustice is too much, so they have to register their displeasure. Even there, Ken tells you, ensure that you do not use injustice to correct injustice. So the second page now tells you stuff about how to go about self-purification, negotiation, and the other. They are all narrative. Okay. Are you able to endure the ordeals of jail? The self-purification bit also tells you to, in other words, reflect and look at what the repercussions will be when you try to disobey the law. Like the UTAG president then could have been jailed, or he and the executive team, maybe, I think. Or if you went on a demonstration and you were caught against the law, okay, and you were caught, you could be jailed. So you discern, you reflect and convince yourself that I am ready for the ordeal ahead. Either you are giving time for the people to do the right thing, at the same time, telling yourself that I'm ready to face whatever the repercussions will be. That's what is going on up there. Are you able to accept blows without retaliating? Because when you demonstrate, you get people hooting at you. Oh, as soon as you throw a stone at those shooting at you, it is no longer a non-violent action, which is what is being proposed. It's a civil disobedience. Disobeying what that's disobeying in a civil manner. Okay. So if your disobedience will attract certain labeling and you can't bear it, then don't do it, because then you would use what? Evil to correct evil. So all of that in that paragraph. Then we show that we are ready for what? Direct action. Okay. Now the man now narrates stuff about what he did over the why direct action, why sittings, and so forth. Isn't negotiation a better path? He's telling them that's what you people are asking. Why are we sitting in? Why are we marching? And why are we singing Negro songs and stuff like that? This disturbing public peace and all that. He says, you are asking that why didn't we negotiate? Who told you? People ask you tag that. People ask the folks who went on cola strike. Some are still striking now as we speak. And so folks are not on Sakai. Before you get to the stage where you embark on direct action, all these would have been what? Engaged in most cases. Sometimes folks don't do. If you don't do these, then you can be taken on by the law. But where you have gone through the various steps, then people will start sitting in and people will start, I don't endorse the ones that will go and smash cars. What has the car done to you? Smash cars, pull down buildings like we saw recently in the news. Some people are angry with a DC or something, so they are breaking doors and windows of, as if we are not in a civil society. It's called civil disobedience. So it has to be civil. This is Martin Luther. All because the law itself, that is, you are appealing to, the law itself is the problem. The law is unjust. So if you take it to court, the law will be applied, and the law is the problem. So he mentions the Nazi law then. Nazis, Germany, it was legal to kill the Jews then. For just being Jew, you see, that's the problem. So the law is the problem, not that you don't know how to go to court and seek redress. When you go to court, what will be applied is problematic. So then it is the law that has to be revised or abrogated or corrected. So he makes some church kind of statements there. We are one brother, we are a brother. Think of it that way. It's not that we like tension, but the fact that we are quiet, very important. Find that also about the injustice doesn't mean there is peace. Sometimes there's a wife in a home there enduring the marriage because she's not shouting. You think she's enjoying it? No, it's an endurance. The day the person sparks, the brother might eat rat food. She will finish you. Okay, so don't think that when everything is quiet and calm, then it means there is peace. Look at our nation in recent times, E11, we say we don't like. IMF, we say we don't like. I say we in a generic sense of general. Okay? If you do not allow, in fact, the law folks will tell you when people want to express their displeasure about something, it is good that you allow them to, insofar as they are not going to, do anything illegal. In fact, the police will guide them to express it. If you gag that, then you leave people with less alternatives or no alternative at all. This is what Martin Luther is saying. Okay, why civil disobedience is justified. So far, I've given you about 6 points already. The law itself is unjust. The law demeans. Enduring it cannot be sustained for too long. The repercussions may be worse. The injustice that you think is happening somewhere, so it doesn't bother you, can ultimately affect you. Now people are fighting there somewhere. We can't get bread to eat because of heat. Look at our economy. Some people don't have heat to warm them any longer. Okay, but you were not fighting with them. But look at us. Okay, so because of all this, sometimes they will say, Martin Luther will say, it is an obligation on you morally to correct that injustice that is going on everywhere. And then he makes another point that I see in my thing. Justice too long delayed is justice denied. When you keep telling people, wait, after all, they are working on it. Oh, we'll work on your cola. Oh, ITA, don't worry. 2010. Oh, don't worry, we'll do it. 2011. Oh, we are on it. It is in the pipeline. 2022. Some have died and gone. Before long, the medical doctor will put his working tool down. People should also die some. They will understand. See that? Because if negotiation fails, sometimes even after the negotiation, so we'll work at it. The reason why it might lead to direct action, non-violent, of course, is because justice too long delayed is justice denied. When you finally give people that which is their due and they are dead, what is the relevance of that? Okay. So that paragraph also elaborates on all of that. It is just showing you that you can't let them enjoy it for too long. And then the second one is you cannot delay. The first one says if you let it remain so for too long, it might have a negative repercussion. The other one says even if they do nothing about it, now the effect, when you finally give them what is their due, it might be useless because perhaps the person is dead already or he has become too old. If you give him the car, he can't even drive it. Okay. Then I think a few more elaborations on what makes a law unjust. When the majority inflicts a law on a minority that is not binding on itself. So you give the laws as majority, but you don't have to obey that law. Others should. This is what was happening there. As for the narrative around it, it can get political. So I just give you how blacks can go to clean the white church, but they cannot enter that church to worship with them. Why? The Holy Spirit won't come. Okay. So the laws were made by a majority for the minority, but does not bind the minority, excuse me, or vice versa. So some people make the laws for others to obey. That is an unjust law. It's not moral. It demeans the humanity, the dignity of others. Okay, so that one cannot be allowed. Therefore, that point is there are just a few examples of unjust laws, and he gave some himself. I don't think I want to keep telling you all of that. If you see it directly, okay. He mentions so many. Hitler's Germany is there. I see some Shadrach, Meshach. One of you said that the Nebuchadnezzar stuff is there. Okay. I think that's all the rest there are accessible to you. So in conclusion, if you are doing Martin Luther very well, page 70, let me finish with that. What would he be eventually saying? That civil disobedience is allowed insofar as there is an unjust law and which, if allowed to permeate, may cause more injustice than currently prevails. And so far as you adopt those 4 steps that he proposes, and you ensure that you are not using evil to correct evil, we can disobey such laws after we have gone through the necessary steps. Any question? Any question? Okay, so that's also very well done there. Those who have already presented have the opportunity now to go and add whatever they think they can add or take out whatever they think they can take out. I'll open the assessment online, and then you would submit that group work. I want only one submission for the group of 6 or 5, depending on which group you have. The only one. For the groups that fell into my net today, you can already see your feedback. I just want that submission. But those who can make their work better or worse, please make it. Maybe I give everyone the opportunity to improve their work and submit. Okay, that should be a fair deal. Let me take members of the other half. We still have 20 minutes, I think. It's 1:50. We close at 2:10. So we can do 15 minutes or so. Let me take those few hands, or 2 o'clock itself. I want to take one group for civil disobedience, and I want to do group. I said civil disobedience. One group for Crito. and I would want to do group 7. In other words, group 7 is part of the earlier one. So let me take the group 7 for you. This is Solomon. That will be group 14. Group work for group 14. Solomon Ade, Jessica Ekufo, Frederica Ubey, Evans Ajimai, and Musa Suleiman, Jason Totime. Any one of you would want to summarize what they did for Crito's paper? What did they see and what do they have to say? Good. Put up your hand quickly, please. I'll let you do a presentation on just that. Thank you very, very much. There's a hand up. I think I see Solomon Ade. Go ahead, Solo. Crito.
Yes, Doc. The Crito is a dialogue between Crito and Socrates. At the time, Socrates was put into prison, into bracket cell. So the dialogue takes place in Socrates' prison cell, where he awaits execution. He is visited before dawn by his old friend, Crito, who has made arrangement to smuggle Socrates out of prison to the safety of banishment or exile. Socrates seems quite willing to await his imminent execution. So Crito presents as many arguments as he can to persuade Socrates to escape. On a practical level, Socrates' death will reflect badly on his friends. People who think they did nothing to try to save him. Also, if Socrates was banished or put into death, he should not worry about the risk or the financial cost to his friends. This they are willing to pay, and they have also arranged to find Socrates a present life in what? Banishment. So all these are arguments presented by Crito. On a more ethical level, Crito presents two more pressing arguments. And first is, if he stayed, he would be aiding his enemies in a wrong him unjustly, and would thus be acting unjust himself. Second, he would be abandoning his sons and leaving them without a father. Hello, dog. Oh, network.
I can
Hello.
hear you. I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I just don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt. That's why I'm muted.
Okay. Yes. So I just finished reading the Crito's second present argument that says that if Socrates was kept into jail or put into death, he would be abandoning his sons and leaving them without a father. So Socrates answers, first, that one should not worry about public opinion, but only listen to wise and expert advice. People should not worry about how Socrates or others' reputations may fare in the general esteem. They should only concern themselves with behaving well. The only question at hand for Socrates to attempt an escape. It is just he will go with Crito. If it is unjust, he must remain in prison and face death. At this point, Socrates introduced the voice of the laws of Athens, which speak to him and explain why it would be unjust for him to leave his cell, since the laws exist as one entity. To break one would be to break them all, and in doing so, Socrates would cause them great harm. The
Very
citizen
good.
is bound.
That's very important. So listen, continue, sir.
Yeah. The citizen is bound to the laws like a child is bound to a parent. And so to go against the laws would be like striking a parent. Hello, dog. Hello,
My
dog.
friend, I can hear you. If you hear anything at the back, and it's your colleagues. I can hear
Rather,
you clearly. Okay.
yeah, rather than simply break the laws and escape, Socrates should try to persuade the laws to let him go. These laws present the citizens' duty to them in the form of a kind of social contract. By choosing to live in Athens, a citizen is implicitly endorsing the laws and is willing to abide by them. Socrates, more than most, should be in accord with the contract, as he has lived a happy 70 years fully content with the Athenian way of life. Socrates were to break from prison now, having so consistently validated the social contract. He would be making himself an outlaw who would not be welcome in any other civilized state for the rest of his life. And when he dies, he will stay for the rest of his life. When he dies, he will be harshly judged in the underworld for behaving unjustly toward his city laws. That Socrates convinced Crito that it would be better not to attempt an escape. Thanks, Doc.
It was read, but I suppose that it's because you want to get it organized, which is fine. There's substance in what has been said, so the group earns a very good mark, but I'll ask a few further questions from you to make sure, from the class, the group, to make sure you did some good job there. So this is the point. What I gather from what you've said, which I want the class to benefit from, is that for Socrates, as presented in the Crito, disobeying the law will be unjust. We don't care whether the law is properly set or properly administered or not. If it is the law and it is the law that gave you the sentence, you have to obey it. And so Crito is trying to show Crito, that's now Crito, the person in the dialogue, not the title of the paper now. Okay, so Crito, the person, the human being, friend of Socrates, tries to convince Socrates that, look, this is a law that is wrongly applied. The law itself is unjust, and the accusations leveled against you are not true. So the law should have been applied justly. You see that? That's Socrates' point with all the elaboration your friend gave. Socrates says, look, I don't want to run away from the law. He says, oh, if you're concerned about who take care of your children and all that, I'm here. We will ensure that is done. We can even get people paid, bribe people so that they carry you out. He said, hey, my friend, the same law that you say has been unjust to me is that law, okay, that has sustained me like my mother did, like my father did, my parent did, from my childhood to now. Bad as they were, some people can introduce their mothers to people. On their wedding day, they bring someone else's mother to be their mother because they want someone that the pancake will look fine on their face. That same woman, that same man who took care of you, bad as she was, with all her bad temper and her anger, and she doesn't know how to wear high heels and what have you. She's a person that has groomed you till you have become what you have become. That's what Socrates is saying. So the law may have all its flaws. Even the judges may have their problems. Even the presidency and all aspects of the law may be problematic. But that is what has taken care of me. When an armed robber took my phone, they took that person to prison. He took my phone for me. When the lecturer tried to cheat me, it is the law that kept the lecturer on his foot. When I passed through traffic light, it is the law that kept that big stout driver to brake his car and let me pass. Because if it wasn't for the law, Nankadi's driver would never let me cross traffic light or no traffic light. And that has gone on. If I have any contract with people, it is the law that has shielded me and protected me till now. So bad as it is, either in the law itself, perhaps, or in its administration, the law cannot. This is the thrust of the whole debate, the discussion going on. The law cannot be wrong. In other words, even if it is wrong, until it is changed, it is the law, says Socrates. It must be obeyed for the integrity of the state. In the bid to correct it, you cannot destroy it to correct it. So he addresses public opinion, what everyone thinks, but everyone would see that you didn't do well. You say, really, what everyone thinks. It's not what everyone thinks, it's what is right. What is the right thing to do? Okay, so there seems to be a certain kind of attention, I think, which now that we have gotten ourselves introduced to, and we have heard your colleagues present on it, I think that you are able to do a critical assessment of why we should obey the state or why we should not, and whether we should do so indiscriminately or we are allowed to disobey the law insofar as we are embarking on what? Civil disobedience. These are the two perspectives to the matter introduced to you, discussed by yourselves, and should be examinable in your midterm. Any question? So I'll open the assignment tool for you and allow every group, including those who presented today, to have the opportunity of making a perfect score for the group work. Again, some have already earned their mark, so they just need to do a pruning here and there to present their paper, which will be officially in the Sakai site for me to create, having participants there. The other groups, who's like the group 4, for example, who scored 8, or group 5, who scored 0, group 6
Madam.
Can I finish? I am giving you another opportunity to work at that group work and present a content, a group work content without any issues, so that every person who participates can score 10, including those who didn't score 10. Now, you all. And I'll give you up to Friday. So I'll open it for today till Friday to receive your feedback. After this one, if you still do kukuru, whatever, like some of you have done, and you score a 0, my conscience is clear. Okay? So that is my summary to the group. That's why it's still on record, so that when people play back, they can hear. Yes, someone was asking a question. Please go ahead.
Doc.
Yes,
Doc,
please.
I know that Solomon Adai can hear me right now. I have been talking in the group, the two.
Oh dear, don't worry, my lady. Who is speaking now? Don't worry, be at peace.
Madam,
Who is speaking?
This is Jessica Kufu. No one
Okay,
was
Jesse,
responding
don't
to me.
worry. Listen, Jesse, because this is recorded, that's why I'm trying to help you manage your emotions, okay? I can understand how frustrating it is when you are trying to get everyone on board so that you
Madam,
can
and I did the work alone,
dear. Jessica,
Madam,
if you don't listen to me, I'll end the session. Now, this is my time.
Okay.
Listen, okay? That is why I said, I'm telling the whole class. I haven't called only that group to talk to you. I'm telling the whole class that everyone in field 304, social and political philosophy, this semester, still has the opportunity to make 10 over 10, including, that's what I said, including those who presented today and didn't score 10 over 10. Those who scored 10 over 10, they don't even need to do any extra work. Again, unless in those groups too, there are people who didn't take part in the group work. I'm giving those people the opportunity to go and join their colleagues and present, so that what I receive from a group will be for every member, because in every submission, I have to have participants there. On that submission you have put there, in the in-text there, when I give it to you, write the names of those who participated. If even after this second opportunity, I go to say group 1, then they have gotten 10 over 10, yes, but the people who participated were only 3 out of the 6. Then my conscience is so clear. When I score you 0 for group 10, you know what 10 marks can do for you in the university. So I'm giving the opportunity to every one of you. Find yourselves as a group. It's a skill. It's not enough to chew content and pour it. You have to learn how to work with people. You have to learn how to manage personalities. It's part of your training as an academic, and then someone going to solve problems in society. So you have different kinds of people who think they know it all, people who will never talk. Now, the skill of leadership will come out when some can take the lead and some to know how to cooperate to create a collective whole. You see, that's what I'm helping us work at. So everyone is going to have a second take at it. between today, Monday, and coming Friday, because you are doing other courses. Work together. Make sure you get everyone. Your emails are in the system. If you go to your group, you will find the names of the people. You can even ask your what's the name, class rep or someone. I mean, when you go to Sakai, just go to email too and find student. Inside student, fish out your colleagues and write an email copy to all of you and say, please, can we join this number if we are all in group 1? I see Samuel, Asimesi and Ofe, Asimesi and Yabwan. We are in group 6. Can we all join this link so we have a meeting at 6 p.m.? That's all. If you do that and some people don't join, then you can use that as your reference. When I tell you that, why is it only 3 people did the work? I'm not marking. They say, "Doc, this is what we sent out there." Officially, not on WhatsApp platform, because some people don't even have a smartphone. So, but if you do an official communication, you get your food. Let your class rep help you. He's a very effective gentleman, and he's your representative. So let him help you find your colleagues. Okay, that is how you should go about such things. And then you meet as a group, fine-tune your work, and present it as group work. I want to see that skill developed in all of you. Okay, if you have any queries or any concerns, even after that, then you send it to me. All right. Ofe Harrison, I saw your hand earlier, and now I see Solomon's hand. Do it very quick.
Yeah, all right, Doc. Okay, so I wanted to share this. Whilst reading the Crito paper, I thought of something and I wanted to share and ask if what I was thinking was right. When Socrates denied...
Harrison, can you respectfully send that to my email, okay?
All right, Doc.
Don't worry, I'll address it. The reason is it's 12:09 or so by my time. And I should have, 2 something. I should be in the class at 2. So I have to sign you out and then sign them in. They will be waiting at the lobby and they won't know why. Okay, so please send me that by email and then I'll look at it and then give you feedback. Okay.
All right.
Great, thank you. Or you could call later in the evening. I finished my lectures around 5. I've given only Harrison that permission to call. Let's take Solomon there. If it's a question, quickly, please.
Yes, yeah. Our group mask.
It's what? About group work?
No, the mask.
The mask.
The mask.
Which group are you in, sir? Please, quickly, quick. Which group?
14.
Group 14.
Yes.
No. I haven't scrutinized you guys yet. You even read it. If I would have given 6. Yes. It didn't touch on so many things, but it's fine because the time wasn't even plenty for me to pull out stuff from you. So take your time, group 14 members, and then engage the Crito paper. There is so much that hasn't been touched. Why you will be a fugitive if you run away from the law here and go to another place? And Socrates' answer is because at that place too, you are going to be seen by the laws there. Every state is governed by law. So if you can run away from the laws here, then when you go there, they will look at you. The laws will look at you like someone who is there to break them also. It's heavy. It's very heavy. There's so much in that context. So take your time and work as a group, okay? And produce this time a finished paper that you will submit that I will look at and can reference even 10 years from today and show why you earned that mark. So do your best and put participants there. When I take yes, sir. When I take the paper to grade, friends, and there is no participant there, I will not prompt anyone. I'll just write 0 because there is no one that is submitting. The group leader, one of you will serve as a group leader. I don't want to choose that for you. So in your group, you can discuss and agree that this person is submitting for us. The person submitting must have the names of all those participating. Don't let me grade. When you finish, I tell Doc, please, Johnson too was included. Sure. You think I'm sitting down babysitting, folks? You should put it in there. Then I finish working on 3 or 4. When I move to 2 or something, I work on that. When I move to critical thinking, 17 groups, I'm working from group to group. I won't be coming back to mop up 304 stuff. Okay, I thank you very much. I think we had a very good time. Thank you, Rosina. You did a very good job from start.
Solomon Adai, please DM at Jesse because we didn't do any good work. You did the work alone.
I stopped my recording. Somebody is breaking.
You did the work alone. I DM'd you. You didn't reply. You